And we're live. Happy Hump Day Wednesday. How's it going? If you can hear me, type a little hello and comments and introduce yourself. And with that, I'll introduce myself. I am Andrea Lowe. I am the founder of Toronto Event Hub and Toronto Dating Hub. I am also one of the hosts for Toronto Entrepreneurs and Startups Facebook group, where we have almost 9,000 members of amazing business owners and entrepreneurs. And I'd like to welcome you to another Asian Heritage Month feature, where this month in May, it is Asian Heritage Month, and I am featuring and highlighting, celebrating, supporting fellow Asian entrepreneurs or business owners who are shaking things up in their community. And I'm so excited for our special guest today. But before I bring him on, I'm just going to do a quick plug and promotion for tonight's networking event. Now, I've heard from a lot of you in our TES Facebook group about wanting to do in-person events again and when's the next event. So tonight, it is happening. So tonight from 6:30 to 9 p.m., I do monthly networking events. So we've got an intimate group tonight, including Justin, our special guest today. He is going to be there, as well as our my other featured guest, the other Justin, is also going to be there tonight. So if you're looking to network with other amazing entrepreneurs and business owners, you want to get some ideas or talk about your challenges and get some advice from other business owners, this is the event to come to, and that's happening tonight. So if you don't have plans, or cancel your other plans and come on out tonight. All the details are in my link, torontoeventhub.com, or you can DM me for details. So I hope to see you tonight. We've got a fantastic crowd coming tonight. But today here, thank you for joining at your lunch break. And again, if you're watching, introduce yourself so we know who's in the audience. But today's special guest is a dear friend of mine, Justin Cuaresma, who's the founder of CrowdParty. And if you saw my post, I had mentioned that he is actually one of the big inspirations why I even started Toronto Event Hub. As well, he is a co-founder of Toronto Game Night, and I want to give him a shout out and credit because it was his idea and he really inspired me to start things off. So he's definitely a special guest and dear friend of mine. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Justin to the stage, to the show. Let's see if he 1 second. Technical difficulties. All right, Justin, trying to pull you up here. All right, I'm not sure what's happening. It's not allowing me to share you on screen. Oops. Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what's happening. Okay. All right, technical difficulties. Justin, are you able to press show on screen on your end? I'm not sure why it's not letting me do it. Okay.
Hey.
Quick refresh. All right. Thanks, Rosa. We can do
Woohoo! Awesome. Hi.
I love technology. Hey, Justin. Sorry about that.
No problem. You know, it happens. Happens to the best of us.
So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Have some guests in the house. All right. So, my first question to you that I've asked all the guests so far this month is, share with us what is your background and your favorite thing about your heritage and culture.
Cool. Background as in professional background or background as in my ethnicity?
Ethnicity, since we're celebrating Asian Heritage Month.
True that. Well, so I've been confused with a lot of things. Some people have called me Indonesian. Some people have called me Hawaiian, but I am Filipino. Full-blooded Filipino. You know, uh, proud to be Pinoy. And Philippines is a beautiful place if you haven't been, uh, especially if you kind of just want to travel to Asia, where it's really English friendly. English is almost kind of like our first language there as well. Um, so everybody knows how to speak English, and I think culturally, Filipinos are a bunch of creatives. We love involving ourselves in the arts, so things with like music, a lot of original dances and unique genres, and even martial arts, right? So one of the most popular martial arts is called Kali, right? And it was developed in the Philippines. So used by the military all around the world. Culturally speaking, I love I'm a creative person, and I love the Filipino culture for that sort of that creativity. So fun fact, actually. So yesterday I learned that Olivia Rodrigo, that's a singer, that popular pop
Singer,
singer.
yes.
I learned that she was actually half Filipino. Can you believe that? And I was like, holy crap! I love their songs, and now I even love her more. And it's so good to have finally some representation, sort of in the mainstream media, um, around Filipinos. And even Jokoy, I mean, just a shameless plug. I was watching his trailer for August called Easter Sunday, and I was like, wow, this is a full-on Hollywood film that's being released, in August in theaters. And I'm just like, this is awesome to finally have some representation come into like the mainstream media. So that's kind of like, did I answer your question?
Yes.
I like to talk.
I know about Olivia because as I was doing some research for Asian Heritage Month, it actually came up on a few channels. And I had shared with the audience that part of the reason why I'm doing this feature and featuring local, unsung heroes like yourself is because media, unfortunately, really only portrays, um, you know, Asian superstars in the film industry, in the music industry, and people like you and I who are doing everyday cool things should be highlighted. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing these features. And again, so happy to see you guys. Oh, Anna, Marcus, hello there. So with that, and actually, I mean, I know the answer to this, but and I know you get a lot of different guesses about your background. But tell us where were you born, and happy memory from your childhood.
Okay. A happy memory from my childhood. Okay.
But to do with like where you were born, because again,
Right.
a lot of people I think guess wrong, right? So
Yeah. So I was actually born and raised in United Arab Emirates, so Abu Dhabi. So from those of you in the UAE, or tuning in, or from those who've been to the UAE, holla. But Abu Dhabi was such an amazing place for me, and honestly, it sort of reminded me of Toronto because it's a melting pot of different cultures, different ethnicities. So my parents were working there at the time, so they actually emigrated there from the Philippines, which a lot of Filipino people tend to do, because there are better job opportunities outside of the Philippines. So my parents did that at the time. I was born there along with my sister, and we spent a good chunk of my childhood there. So we didn't come to Toronto till 2002, actually. And one of my best memories, was basically losing this like little inflatable, like my sister's little inflatable boat, and I had to like chase it across like the beach. And I don't know, whenever I think of Abu Dhabi, I think of that memory, and I think that they honestly have really nice beaches there, and I really want to go back and visit one day just to see if my memory still serves me right. But Filipino people, we love the beach, we love the sun, and just remembering Abu Dhabi and me having to chase my little sister's inflatable, boat thing,
hmm
is probably one of my fondest memories, because I was trying to like save it for her, and
right.
right? But I ended up not getting it back. So
But that's cute. One of your fond childhood memories involved your sisters. So that's good. And I know Filipinos are definitely very family oriented. And then earlier you mentioned about Filipinos and being creative and in the arts. And actually, Angela, one of the other guests, the co-founder of Steps Dance Studio, was on one of my lives and talked about creative and the arts for Filipinos. So I want to go on that angle, and I know it has to do with the work that you do. So let's talk about Filipinos and the arts and being creative. And now some people really don't like stereotypes, but there are good stereotypes and the bad ones. So do you want to elaborate on this one?
yeah, so back in high school, I was actually really into the visual arts. I loved it. Did a lot of paintings, did a lot of drawings. Um, and I sort of just naturally kind of tended towards that creative path. Um, and yeah, so like going to university, I ended up in this program called digital media, and it was great because it was sort of like computer science mixed with some artsy fartsy stuff. Shout outs to digital media at York. And then eventually I ended up switching over to computer science because I wanted to really learn the algorithmic and mathematical sort of foundations of computer science, and ended up getting a computer science degree instead of a digital media degree. But I think to me, one of my, biggest sort of, I guess I have to thank my parents, to be quite honest, right? Because my parents were sort of, the type of parents that just said, hey, do whatever you want as long as you're happy. And to me, it was like, okay, well, first I was happy with digital media. And then next, I wanted to learn more. And they were like, go do it. Spend enough years, as long as you're paying for your tuition, spend the extra years that you have to get that degree, whatever you're happy with. And inherently, there are a lot of Filipino people, and I jokes about this, but like sometimes you see in hospitals the nurses are sort of like popping and locking and stuff like that. But it's like we're never sort of there's almost kind of like a generational cycle of this like Filipino dream, right? It's like, hey, the Filipino dream, to those of you who might not know, is parents would often emigrate from the Philippines into North America or someplace else, and they say, hey, anak, which means son or daughter, make sure you have a stable job, right? So it's either work with the government, and or work for healthcare, because that's stability, right? Sorry, I'm just gonna turn off do not
So
disturb.
popular. Okay.
Yeah, and I feel like that sort of hindered a lot of art, a lot of the creative sort of outlets for a lot of people, right? And I feel like if we just, for Filipino parents who are watching, right, if you sort of just allow them and empower them to chase after their creative dreams of whatever they want to become, right, that in the end is going to be, sort of, it's what's going to fulfill them, right? And it's going to allow them to sort of express their creativity in whatever job that they want to do. And, I want to tell you a funny story, but I have a friend who was a nurse, and, she invited me for dinner one time with a bunch of her nurse friends. And it was probably like, a table filled with like probably about 7 or 8 of us. And for whatever reason, we sort of, went into this topic of like, what was your dream job?
Wait,
You know,
so this
yeah,
group of 7 or 8
yeah,
of you nurse friends too,
yeah.
were they all Filipino
They
or
were
like
all Filipinos. Yeah, they were all Filipinos and Filipinas, right? And as we went around the table, I started off with like, well, I wanted to be an animator, right? And to me, computer science and development is not far from animating. So, like, for people to say, hey, Justin, you gave up animation, you gave up the arts. Like, to me, coding is actually just another artistic medium, right? It's another artistic medium for me to express my creativity. But as I went around the table, it's like all these nurses were like, hey, actually, I wanted to be an architect. Another said I wanted to be a pilot. Another said I wanted to start my own business. Like just creating like jewelry. And I was like, well, why not, right? And a lot of them said that, hey, it's because of that cyclical sort of following my parents' dreams. And that's the thing with like Asian culture in general, right? We want to respect our parents, right? And as part of that respect is like sometimes some of us may have to live out their dreams, right? And it's very strong. It's not just in the Filipino culture, by the way, but this is in the entire Asian culture, right?
For sure.
They want us to be doctors, right? But in the case of the Philippines, they want us to be nurses, right? And there's nothing wrong with nursing. I feel like, shout outs to all the nurses, the Filipino nurses that have helped out during the pandemic. You guys are doing an amazing job. And, I've talked to a few of you guys, and it must have been so exhausting, right? But what I'm trying to I guess, kind of make clear here is that, let's end that stereotype. You know what I mean? Like, let's end that stereotype where, Filipinos are now just sort of in the healthcare industry, the service industry. Look at me, right? I'm in tech. When I was working at the previous company, right, we had 1,500 people, and there were only 3 Filipinos working within the company. So much so that I got so excited when I would, somebody would join and they had a Filipino last name. And I was like, oh my God, hey, do you speak Tagalog? You know what I mean? Like, let's talk, let's chat. So there's definitely a lot of, I definitely encourage Filipinos, whether or not you're in healthcare or the service industry, or you're still, Filipino youth trying to look for career decisions, use this recording, show it to your parents if they want you to become a nurse. And then honestly, I encourage you to just chase after what you want to chase, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to fulfill you. That's what's going to make you happy. And that's what's going to change the narrative for Filipino people. Right?
For sure. And that reminds me, and you're right, like it's definitely, that is something that resonates for a lot of like all of the Asian heritage. It's definitely in the Chinese culture. I think for us, or for me, it wasn't like to live out my parents' dreams, but they worked hard. So they want to make sure you have like a good life and be successful, which to them, and when they were growing up, it means all those like professionals, like the ones with the designations where you get letters behind your name, right? The doctors, lawyers, engineers, accountants, anything that will make you proud. And Jay Lee shared the other time, right? Like when you go to church, so they can talk about your kids and how like successful they are. So totally, I get it, like but it definitely, I'm inspired by that, and I definitely followed that because throughout my career path, it was like get a real job, right? It's like, Mom, this is a real job. Like this, like the clients you work with, the budgets I'm working with, this is real. Just because either I'm on contract or doing something else doesn't make this any less of a real job, or that's not a career. So I definitely agree with you, and it is inspiring what you're saying. So yes, use this recording if you're listening, or there's any aunties and uncles out there. But it is amazing to hear that your parents were so supportive of you, because I definitely think a lot of us Asians growing up, we just didn't have that same luxury. So shout out to your parents for being so super supportive throughout your journey and career. And with that, I'd like to segue to your career path, because it's definitely unconventional. And you definitely talk about, being inspiring. I know we shared in our promo post about today's talk that you had quit your job during the pandemic, and you were making good money, great job, and you quit your job. And I would love to have you talk more about your unconventional career path.
Yeah, I could definitely go into that. So I was working at a company called Ultimate Software, UKG, in the past, UKG now. And basically, before that, I was a startup. So probably like, well over 6-7 years now in tech. And, worked my way up as a software engineer, went on to, leading the team. I was leading the mobile platform team at the time, right? And I guess I don't like being too comfortable. And that's just sort of in my personality type, right? I always like to sort of, and, making that money sort of made me a little bit comfortable. And again, just, sometimes I urge people to really follow through with what they're feeling. But even though I had a stable job, I had a great team, no complaints about the job. Company was great. In fact, they spoiled us, right? But sometimes you just need to go after what it is that you desire. And at the time, my after was, creating something of my own, right? I have this creator sort of mentality. And I said, what is the best time? So in November of 2019, I handed in my resignation for summer of 2020. Unknowingly, not knowing that there was going to be a pandemic, right? So in March, they sent us home to work from home. And, a lot of my friends were still like, hey, are you still going to be quitting your job? And I was like, I was actually like, I was second guessing now.
Contemplating, yeah.
But then I started, I ripped out a piece of paper, right? I drew out circles up until June 21st of 2020. And each day I had to fill in the circles. So it was like giving us, giving me some sort of a deadline.
So it was like a countdown calendar of circles?
Countdown calendar, exactly. And eventually, I sort of went back to how I felt. And I said, you know what? The pandemic is probably the best time to start a business, right? Because now if I was going to start a team, at least they're all going to be remote, right? Everybody is, wanting to keep their jobs. And, I feel like a friend of mine told me this, but he was like, fortune favors the bold or the brave, right? And so I was like, I was going to do this anyway, pandemic or not, right? And at the time, I felt like the pandemic was really just fate testing my will, right? The universe was like, hey, here's a pandemic, Justin. Do you still want to chase after what you're chasing, right? And I was like, well, am I going to back down? Am I going to, be a coward and just back down, Because I was like, again, remember, I was going to resign anyway. So I went on with it, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just took the leap, right? And you don't know where you're going to go. You don't know if you're going to make it to the other end of the cliff. You don't know if you're going to free fall. In my case, I free fell, into a bottomless pit. But part of that bottomless pit is like, it gives you enough time to think about what you can be creating next. And to me, my interest was, how can I make workplaces more enjoyable? Because as my previous team lead, with my previous team lead experience, that's what it was all about. It's creating energy within the team, right? It's how do you get teams to laugh together? I saw on LinkedIn that there's this, some famous LinkedIn influencer was like, if you can get a team to laugh together, they stay together. And honestly, that's what I saw when I was leading the team. I was sort of the guy who just like, yeah, let's rock this week.
Rallying them up.
Right. And, we play games during afternoon. We play card games to laugh with each other, share and be vulnerable with each other. We had Vanilla, for one lunch, she brought us like chicken biryani, which is amazing. And it's those things. Right. And then I was like, well, how can I solve this during a pandemic when everybody's working from home? And even now it's such a big problem. Everybody's working from home. Everybody's working remote. So I said, I had this one sort of prototype back when I was working, right? And that prototype was I had to basically host a virtual happy hour for like 70, 80 people. Because we had our team, which was like 10, 15 people, and then we had sibling teams around it. And they were like, Justin, you have to host something for all of our teams, or all of the mobile teams within the company. And I was like, this isn't going to work. It barely works for 101. So what I did as a prototype was I said, okay, I opened up Google Slides, I put in trivia, I put in charades. And by the time you know it, like the chat was blowing up, everybody was laughing on their cameras, everybody was like poking fun at each other. And the retention rate of that meeting was actually quite high. So I think it was only like a quarter of the people left after we were done playing games. After the fact, people were like, still talking in chat, still talking to each other, right?
Amazing.
So that was the prototype. And then eventually, when I sort of took the leap, I created this thing called CrowdParty. They're saying, hey, show the app. I can definitely show the app here. So this is CrowdParty. And you can just easily Google search CrowdParty.
You want to share CrowdParty?
Yeah, I'll just quickly, share how it looks like. So that's it, crowdparty.app. And So basically, what we're think of it as the Netflix for workplace games, right? You press host a game, and then you're in, sort of in a Netflix screen, and then you just pick a game with one click. You're having fun with your team, right? So if you're working remotely in a hybrid setting, or if you even want to play this in person, just go Google search CrowdParty, play a game, have some fun, and be joyful, right? But okay, so I think we're done with this screen sharing, Andrea, so we can go back.
I just put the link in the comments, so if you are interested or have never tried it, definitely it's free to try, up to 10 users if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Ricardo says website looks beautiful, amazing. And I know we want to talk about other things, but I do want to give a shout out for CrowdParty because and I know we met on the Toronto Entrepreneurs Startups Facebook group when you were sort of kind of promoting it. And I run at that time, because I started my business during the pandemic. We actually started our businesses around the same time in 2020, which is amazing. Actually, 2 years ago. So this month would have been 2-year anniversary for me.
Right.
And I saw your post. And I was like, how to make events less, or virtual events less boring. And I was like, that spoke to me. And then we messaged and then started our dialogue. And then here we are, I guess a year later from the time we first connected, we co-founded Toronto Game Night.
Mhm.
And I've been using CrowdParty at, the first year of my business was all pure virtual events. And I was doing my thing, using Zoom to do all these things and looking up games. And then, I did definitely have to give a shout out that CrowdParty really enhanced my events and definitely took the work, like made it so much easier, because it's like you said, right, instead of looking up these trivia questions and these all these different types of games and things, and it's like, oh my god, I have to put this together, this is like so much work. And then now I'm just like, CrowdParty is amazing. You have all these different rooms and then the different themes for the different months, like right, I used it for International Women's Day. You got it like a Disney version, you do a Star
Right.
Wars version, so you keep up with the trends. So and people use it from teachers in schools to, I use it for singles events. Like, who would have thought? So really kudos to the work in your creativity and your whole team for enhancing my business and my events. So really awesome. So again, if you haven't tried CrowdParty, you definitely should. And I'm sure you can comment here or get Justin to give you a code for a pro version of it. He's usually good with that.
Yeah, just holla. Yeah, I'll give you something for you to try. But I just want to elaborate on that, Andrea, because you sort of asked me about the path. So I'm sort of 2 years in, right? So a lot of people are wondering, when you took that leap, did you fall into oblivion or did you make it to the other side? And to be quite honest, just for anyone who's starting their own business, or who's an aspiring entrepreneur, sometimes you can't expect anything. I mean, I didn't expect to meet you, right? I didn't expect to be on this call, but the only reason why I'm on it was because I did take that, right? The only reason, and this is funny, it's like it's almost divine timing, right? But sometimes when you do take that leap, there are bigger opportunities that you can't get, while you're working, for example, or while you just didn't chase your dream, right? And not to say that there were a lot of failures. I mean, I feel like, to be quite honest, CrowdParty is a very successful product, right? It's been used by, and being used by the likes of Shopify, Hulu, Google, even, so a lot of big names. So when I see that, when I see people message me about it, and then I meet people and they're like, yeah, I've heard of CrowdParty, like that feels great. But to me, it's like, like, I guess it's just like the whole artist mentality. But to me, it's still a failure, right? And like, we always kind of course correct from our failures. Like, to me, having 2 years, like being in this for 2 years, like it's been a big struggle, right? Like, did we sort of hit our milestones? Not necessarily. Like, trying to raise money is the hardest thing, and I'm a creator. I'm not very good with financials and analytics and metrics, right? But sometimes when you're raising money and now you're talking to investors, that's what you got to know. So I've been trying to learn those side of things. So it's not all like roses and rainbows, right? And but what I do want to sort of emphasize is that when you take that fall, right, when you are free falling, right, and sometimes, that's how I felt the past 2 years. There are like magical things that'll happen before like you reach rock bottom. And even if you reach rock bottom, it's like a whole new world that you wouldn't have explored if you hadn't fall down, if you haven't fell down into the hole anyway, right?
I know you're definitely like, you're into feeling, intuition, and experiencing, which I know a lot of people like, even for myself, it's like, that's scary. So I want to build on something that you said about,
Yeah.
taking the leap of faith and experiences that you can't get when you're doing, like, if you were to pursue your dream job or career on the side,
Mhm.
and which it's something that I'm doing, right? So I'd love you to elaborate on that. Like, give us some examples if you can think of something, putting you on the spot right now. Give us some examples of what were some of those experiences or stories of, um, what you were able to experience because you did it full time. So this is to inspire those who, like me, were doing our dream thing on the side, and we're sort of, you know, doing both a day job and then our sort of other side hustle, side business. So tell us about that.
Yeah. I like to sort of free myself up um, often. And I started doing this like, it's almost kind of like a daily thing, right? But I would actually, block out the tasks that I need to get done for the day, including some of the personal development tasks, to see what an overview of my day looks like, right? So the thing about like taking that leap is, you're sort of now just liberated yourself from the 8 hours that you have to spend at work, for a whole week. Imagine what you could be doing in those 8 hours, right? And even today, I have sort of like a routine, right? I like to take care of myself. I am the healthiest I've ever been in the past 5 years. I've like shed like 20 pounds just working on myself. And I've gone down from like having 5 cups of coffee to one coffee every single day,
Now tell us
right?
about that routine for those of you, because I know it's pretty healthy. So to inspire those who might be lazy in the morning, but tell us about that routine.
I mean, so the routine is simple. Do the hardest tasks before you even start your work day. So the hardest tasks is, are people don't want to work out, people don't want to fix their bed, right? So fix your bed and work out, and do something that you want to do, right? So whether that's reading, whether that's drawing, but do those difficult tasks to start the day off right, and then everything else comes easy, right? Because if a lot of us don't like to work out, right? So if we don't like to work out, let's sort of get used to working out early in the morning. Let's get used to making our bed, right? It's the few simple tasks that you do each morning sort of determines your day, right? So that's sort of like my morning routine. I don't start work till like 11 or like 12, because like my morning is for me. My morning is where I get to be creative, where I get to read, something new, learn something new, work out, and really start the day off right. So after having said that, now it's like 11 p.m. and now we have to do meetings right throughout the day. I mean, how much time do you have left? If you're spending the evening with family or with your friends, you don't have a lot of time left, right? So for people who haven't taken the leap, think about how much time you're losing away from your business or away from developing yourself, right? Because a lot of us, what I noticed when I was still working, I was actually working on side projects at the time, but I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't healthy, right? I was overweight, right? And I sort of relied on caffeine to sort of like keep me up and running, right? And there was always things to do and never enough free time to really do the things that I'd like to do. But
Awesome. Sorry, I'm also just looking
yeah,
at, we got Jay in the house, and he's giving you amazing shouts and saying, you're the bomb, let's party, and that you shed 20 pounds. You went from a 6 pack to a 12 pack. Holy moly,
there it
guacamole.
is.
anyways,
You want to
it's
see?
always it's always
You
yeah,
wanna see?
let's do it. Let's see.
No, no,
Let's
no.
see what those morning routine has caused you to no.
That's for the summer edition.
The late time show. Tonight actually,
Yeah,
tonight when they because you're coming to the networking event. So if you want to talk to Justin and talk more about it, come on out tonight.
yeah.
Now, let's talk about we talked about you creating and bringing joy to the workplace. Amazing. So let's go to that second half of what we said we would talk about for today, which is changing up the narrative for Filipinos. And I know you talked a little bit about that, but let's talk about I don't want to take I want you to sort of talk about it, but tell us about this new project you're working on, secret mystery
Oh,
thing. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but tell the audience because it's exciting. You've got a whole team, you got lots of things coming up, and I know Justin's one of the most creative people, always full of ideas and surprises, so it's always great. So you get the first glimpse to hear it first on what is Justin's next project.
yeah. I mean, it's not really a project. It's something again like taking that leap has sort of led me to this like undiscovered world, right? So there are a few things. So one of and again, it all has to do with immersing myself in this sort of in this environment. So last year I was trying to raise, right? I was trying to raise money, and I got into this group investor interview, which was like the weirdest thing ever. So it was like 5 companies, right? It was 5 companies, all like basically like trying to raise money with this like venture capital firm, and you know, I was the only Asian, right? Everybody else was Caucasian, and nonetheless, like you know, um, so we went on with the interview, and then I connected with a bunch of people there, right? And I really connected with this one person, and we were sort of talking about raising money, right? Um, there's a question. There's a funny question there that just like stopped me in my tracks. Yeah,
It was from you know what? Hold on. There's a really cool thing that Melon can do, and he can show a question. Anna says, Justin, but how do you make time for love?
we'll talk that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. So, anyways, I was raising money, and I asked. I was like, "Hey, how did you? What's the secret to getting your pre-seed?" And then she was like, "Yeah, well, my dad was friends with with this investor at the country golf club." And I was like, "What? That's how easy it was? You just, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, not to downplay obviously their business. They're working really hard at their business, but it's all about connections." So I was like, "Huh? Where's the country golf club for Filipinos? We don't even play golf. You know what I mean? But like we play basketball, right? Like golf is not our thing, right?" So there was that one incident, and then I look back. So there was a function a few years ago, and we're sort of getting to know each other, and someone had said, right, and he was kind of joking around at this time, but he was like, "Okay, do you have any siblings?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I've got an older brother, and a younger sister." And then just, I mean, maybe he was just, having a lighthearted conversation, right? But he was like, "So what does your sister do? Is she also a nurse?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "No, dude. Like she's in marketing for Canada Goose. Canada Goose, one of the biggest, Canadian companies. And to be marketing for that, you have to be exceptionally good because it's, they've got a brand to uphold." And that sort of like triggered me. It's like, really, like, you know what I mean? Has that become the stereotypical thing, right? And you know what? The sad truth is that it has, right? And again, just I wanted to sort of create a community where we can not only empower Filipinos but also educate Filipinos that hey, tech is a very viable career path, right? I mean, here's the thing, Andrea, right? The phone that you're using right now, the chips in that phone and in that computer was inspired by the chipset created by a Filipino inventor back in the 90s. Not a lot of people know this, right? Everybody knows about Steve Jobs. Everybody knows about Elon Musk. right? But nobody knows about the Filipino guy who created the semiconductor. And I think his name is like Dato or something like that, right? Emigrated from the Philippines, was, dirt poor, right? Rags to riches story. He's now an angel investor, right? You know what a lot of people also don't know, Andrea?
What's
Right?
that?
Everybody know who Even Spiegel is. Even Spiegel is the founder of Snapchat, right? But you know who coded up Snapchat? A Filipino American named Bobby Murphy. So everybody knows about, you know, the people, the faces of these companies. It's great for Hollywood. It's great for the media. It's, make shows about them. But what about Bobby Murphy,
And
right?
that's why we need to create these platforms that highlight the other people's. Most of the
That's what I'm
companies and
saying.
brands are always talking about the founder, the, the person in the media, right? So
Right. And even Olivia Rodrigo, right? I thought she was like an American Latina, you know, uh, pop star. And only yesterday did I know that she was actually half Filipino. But that's, when you go to her Wikipedia page, they're going to say she's American, right? They totally took out her Filipino identity, her cultural identity, right? And to Anna's point, Anna did point that out. She was like, hey, there's this Filipino girl on the radio and she's really popular. I was like, what Filipino girl? I was like, that song, like she sang that song, Good For You. So anyways, I said, you know what, to make the path for entrepreneurship, to make the path for tech easier for my fellow people, for my fellow Filipinos, there needs to be a platform of some sort. There needs to be a community where we can all connect, where we can all bounce ideas off of each other, where we can sort of offer a helping hand for people in service work and people in the healthcare to say, hey, join us. Hey, you've always wanted to do this. Let us teach you. Hey, you've always wanted to be a tech-based entrepreneur. Let us teach you. Let us guide you. Learn from our mistakes, right? You don't have to, sort of submit yourself to, the typical sort of startup route of being a minority in entrepreneurship. This is a community where we help each other out, where we come together, where we lead with love, So today I'd like to introduce Flight. Amazing name, right? Thank you to whoever came up with that. But Flight is a community for Filipinos in tech and entrepreneurship. And you know what? Basically the point of the community is to empower those who are interested in technology, who are interested in tech-based entrepreneurship, right? To join this community, and again, just bounce ideas. And to sort of give you the background of Flight, we started it not too long ago, but we have engineers from the likes of Twitter, Uber, 1Password, TELUS, engineers and engineering managers. We have folks who started their own, sort of restaurant apps, right? And now they're going into fintech, right?
are these is everyone from Toronto or just like all over the world kind of thing?
So we're starting small, and so this is going to be a Toronto thing for now. But the vision is that this is a platform for Filipinos around the world to connect and essentially, rewrite that narrative, right? Essentially, go from Even Spiegel to Bobby Murphy, right? And the aim is, right, in the next few years, right, this platform should help the next Filipino Steve Jobs, Stephen Jobs. Sorry, that was a joke. Right. So this is Flight. We are Flight, right? Filipinos in tech and entrepreneurship. And really our aim is to, again, empower Filipinos to pursue technology-based careers and businesses. And this is who we are so far. We've got designers, developers, a bunch of beautiful people. And this is just a subset of the crew here. And we have, to put, our money where, to put our money where our mouths are, we have an upcoming pitch competition. in during Filipino Heritage Month. And
And when is
basically,
that?
sorry.
What month is that in?
So this is next month. So it's coming up close,
Oh,
right?
so June is Filipino Heritage Month.
Exactly. Yeah, June is Filipino Heritage Month, so expect a lot of goings-ons in the community around Filipinos and Filipino culture.
Nice.
But the other thing that we wanted to highlight is let's showcase the young and brilliant minds in the Filipino community. And let's let them empower them, to basically show the world what they're capable of. And this pitch competition serves as a platform. We want to just not only connect Filipinos in the tech scene, Filipinos in the entrepreneurship scene, but also give them essentially the fuel to realize their dreams, to realize their businesses, right? So this pitch competition is up and coming, right? We are taking in entries. So if you are, in the Filipino community, you have this awesome app idea, even if it's not coded up yet, even if it's just a proof of concept, talk to us, submit your entry, right? And we'd love to showcase what what you're trying to build here. So we want to make the path to entrepreneurship and the path to tech much easier for Filipinos all around the world. So that's the upcoming pitch competition that we have. So join us. We have a very vibrant Facebook group. Join us on our Instagram, follow us. But this is the venture that sort of, again, came out of that leap, right? If I hadn't taken this full time, I wouldn't have immersed myself in how difficult it is to raise funding as a, minority, right? Especially, a minority in the sort of Czech participation rate among Asian folks, right? So there was this, we were looking at a Statistics Canada, essentially survey, but Filipinos were amongst the lowest ethnicities in tech participation. Tech participation being having a tech-based job. And we want to change that. Let's change it. It's time.
And speaking of changing that, and I know we're almost at time. So if someone was an aspiring, someone who wants to go in tech and entrepreneurship, so because I know the pitch competition, it's sort of you have to have something. So what if you're at the very beginning of even should I change career paths? Should I study this? Should I do is Flight really, how will you help those people? What can someone expect for joining Flight? You know what I mean? Do you have monthly networking events and resources posted in your Facebook group? Tell us a little bit more about someone who might be scared to join or not sure of going into this sort of path.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. If you're just interested in tech, if you're interested in sort of a pivot in your career as a Filipino, join the community, right? You're going to make awesome friends. I've met a lot of awesome people just by starting up this community. And the cool thing about Filipino people is that, we sort of, the whole culture of Filipinos is that we're very welcoming, right? We like to help each other out. I love helping people out just for the sake of helping them out. It's all, at the end of the day, like I said, lead with love. It's all about love, right? So if you are in the healthcare industry, if you're in the service industry, if you're in college and you're confused, right? And, you're like, hey, coding's too hard, or, I don't want to be a software engineer. I don't want to have, I don't have what it takes, right? Come join the community. We'll show you that you have what it takes. Absolutely. Have what it takes. Like I said in the beginning, we are a bunch of creative people. Coding and, software engineering is just another artistic medium. But for a lot of us, we sort of have that almost kind of this lack of belief in our abilities just because we see, code on a screen and that's riddled with colors. But I can assure you, if you join our community and you talk to one of our, mentors from the likes of Twitter, Uber, even CrowdParty, right? We'll tell you that, hey, it's not that hard. It's actually not that hard. It's just, we've just been sort of on this path, right? this cycle of like, hey, like let us not participate in tech. And we want to change that. Like what I'm trying to say is that, hey, if you're a nurse, if you're managing a restaurant, you have the skills to essentially learn how to code, and that skills one day would transform into the future of whatever dream you're trying to pursue. So yeah.
It sounds like I mean, it's definitely inspiring, and it just makes me like, because I do all these events. Like, you definitely need to put more of your mentors or yourselves to do more of these talks. To, I know, like when people are looking for, let's say they're trying to learn a skill, and I'm sure you went through this process too. Like, you're on like Facebook, LinkedIn, Eventbrite for all these like different webinars and free courses. So I'm stoked to see if Flight will soon offer that for your community, or if you ever need help with that, I could definitely help with that. And I love this comment also from Jay. Let me see if I can show it on stream. I should start Kite, Koreans in Technology and Entrepreneurship. You
That's
should.
an awesome acronym, Jay. Hey, go for it, and then maybe we can even partner up with each other, right? Like the whole point of this is to just, for us, it's a community where we find people. It's so hard to find people. It's so hard to find people on tech.
I was gonna
Right?
say, like, in speaking with you, like, it has been hard to find other people in Filipinos in tech, right? You're saying, like, how many members are you guys now? And how do you normally find, like, bump into these people? Because you even said at Ultimate, right? There was like 3 out of 1,500 people that were actually Filipinos in the company.
Yeah.
So how has it been searching for others in the industry?
I mean, we have 25 people. It's really small and intimate, close knit. We share ideas. We share job opportunities with folks who are joining the community. We bounce off ideas around real estate investment, financial investment, and funnily enough, they just sort of again just naturally converged. So I found a few folks off of Twitter, right? Found a few folks off of LinkedIn, right? And the idea is to essentially just, they're out there somewhere. We just have to look for them, or they have to find us. But it's been a struggle, to be quite honest, because again, that low participation rate in tech. But hopefully, with things like the pitch competition, hopefully with our monthly workshops and events, we continue to take flight.
Speaking of take flight, Jay has another cute comment here. We can take flight to the kite together. Marvel Asians assemble. I
Yeah,
don't know. I immediately thought of Simulu. You should get him to endorse you guys too.
absolutely. And again, like Andrea, just to make it clear, I don't want this to be like a exclusive club. I don't want this to be like, hey, Filipinos, let's gang up together and let's take over the tech scene, right? This is more for empowerment, right? And education that, hey, you do have what it takes, right? To transition over to tech, to make it into tech, to make it into techpreneurship, right? This isn't about isolating different races or ethnicities. This is just finding us, creating the safe haven for, Filipinos who've experienced, these cultural issues when they're trying to cross boundaries.
And as an idea, and maybe you've already thought of it, I think your work and what you're doing here is really inspiring, and sort of you just start from the education sector, or when students like in high school, university, when you can really influence the decisions that they're making about which career path. Because I think and I know Rosa's in the audience here. Rose and I came from UTSC, and we often do talks with our the student groups, because we get invited as alumni going back to talk. And they're at that stage where they're you could influence and impact them. Because one of my advice to them is always like, don't listen to your parents, because like I wish someone told me that, right?
Right.
Like when I was younger, where what, if you listen to your parents, you whether you're going to live out their dreams or just wake up when you're our age now and be like, what the f am I doing, because this is not what I love, right? Trusting your intuition. But more students, whether they're in high school, university, college, it's that age that they need to hear more of these encouraging words, these inspiring stories. So I definitely think that would be a really great path to consider.
Right. I mean, listen to your parents, right, to a point. right?
Yeah.
And you tell them, hey, mom, this isn't going to make me happy. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, parents will understand that if it doesn't make you happy, then it's not worth following that one rule that they sort of enforce on you, right? But yeah, maybe, sorry, we just got a little philosophical there. But maybe, should we open it up for Q&A?
Yeah, definitely. We have about 4 minutes left. So if you have any further questions or comments to Justin, definitely put that in the chat. And as we wait for those, Justin, I'll give you a minute to, either tell us, one of your biggest learnings, or if there's any events, promotions, things that you want to take this minute to really highlight that's coming up.
Yeah, so we actually have Toronto Game Night happening on May 27th of this month. That's 27th of this month. Yeah, I just said that. But anyways, I'm back. I'm back for to co-host that. You know, I spent the last 3 months in Spain. Again, taking that leap sort of allowed me for that free time. And we'll be back to host Toronto Game Night, so that'll be fun. And we're doing it at free play. So May 27th, if you haven't gotten the tickets yet, I believe we're still on early bird. You can get them off of the Eventbrite. No longer an early bird. So there's that happening. And then the pitch competition for Flight. Make sure you join the community. But that is happening near the end of June. We're still sort of sorting out the final details. So if you have an idea, or if you just want to be a participant, definitely join the community, and we'll tell you more about it.
And what's the URL to join Flight or to find you guys?
Yeah, so the URL is weareflight.org, or on our socials, just join Flight. So FLITE, Flight.
Awesome. We got 2 questions.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
Jay says, how do you make your hair shimmer and your teeth so white? What's your secret?
Lighting, Jay. That's the secret. Really good lighting. So natural light works best. I have my window blinds open, but they don't naturally shimmer like this, but it's lighting.
Mike asks, least favorite pizza topping, best slice in Toronto. That is, oh, Mike, that's tomorrow's guest. But hey, what's your favorite least favorite pizza topping? Just
least favorite would probably be olives.
Olives.
But you know what? I've got to connect with Justin tomorrow so that I can get a taste of his pizza slice. I also want to go back to this one question: How do you make time for love?
Yes.
Everybody. This is where my spirituality philosophical thing comes in. Love. We always have time for love, right? And I read this one thing the other day, and it says, "Teach love, for that is all that you are." And at the end of the day, if we're just looking at each other and we're loving and we're looking at each other as divine beings, things will work out, because people will be there to help you, because they would in turn realize the divinity in you. So honestly, a really good sort of closing statement for this. It's not even about entrepreneurship. It's not about Filipinos. Is that treat each other with divinity, and the world would be a much better place.
I think when something matters, you'll make time for it. So whether that's taking care of yourself, your business, a special somebody you want to read, if it's important to you, you'll make time and you'll find time. So exactly. I think that's a great point. We're at time, and just, yes, really quickly, game night is Friday, May 27th. Your 2 founders and co-hosts will be there, and there are promotions if you want to bring a friend, if you're a couple, all that good stuff that is there. Go to torontoeventhub.com for that. Tomorrow, I have another Justin, who is the sort of founder of Cowbunga Pizzeria in Hamilton. So another Justin is tomorrow at noon. But both Justins, if you want to meet them and talk to them and grill them in person, they're coming tonight. Tonight's dinner networking event. You'll see Justin in the house in the flesh. So Jay, I know he can't make it, but you would have seen his pearly whites then. But Justin and the other Justin will be in the house tonight at my networking event. Again, torontoeventhub.com for details if you can make it tonight. Got a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs coming tonight, so that's awesome. And follow Next week, I have more Asian Heritage Month features and specials coming up with some amazing people. But follow Toronto Vet Hub for all those details. So thank you so much, Justin. Thank you so much, everyone in the audience, for listening. Thank you for inspiring us, Justin, and continuing to inspire us and do your awesome work. And I hope to see you guys tomorrow and next time and maybe tonight. So thanks so much, everybody. Have an amazing Wednesday. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.